She slammed the front door so hard it rattled the wine glasses in the cabinet. "Caleb!" she shouted. "What the hell is that sign doing in our yard?" Her voice hit like a bat to the ribs, but I didn't flinch. Just closed the book in my hands and looked up. Outside, the sign was swinging in the wind like it had something to say. I'd already packed the things that mattered: birth certificate, passport, the good thermos, and my late father's old flannel that still smelled like diesel and winter. I was calm. The kind of calm you only earn after months of choking on your own doubt. "You can't sell our house!" she barked, storming into the living room like the floor still belonged to her. "You can't just do that!" I set the book down on the coffee table. It wasn't for show. I really had been reading. I'd had time. A lot of it. "I didn't," I said and held her stare. "The court did." That's when she blinked. Once. Twice. Like her brain was buffering. "I filed for divorce 2 weeks ago." "The judge signed the order to sell the house 3 days ago." She didn't speak. Didn't blink again. Just stood there, keys still dangling from her hand, like she couldn't figure out if this was real or some bad dream where the husband she lied to finally got a backbone. Before she could launch into whatever excuse she'd prepared for this trip, whatever new friend had shared that hotel room, I walked into the kitchen and came back with the manila folder. Thick with evidence. Photos. Timestamps. Receipts. I held it out like it was a gift. "Open it." She didn't take it right away. Her fingers twitched. Her lip wobbled just enough to tell me I was right to do this. That folder didn't just hold proof. It held freedom. Mine. And that was just the start. She finally reached for the folder like it might bite her. Her fingers shook as she flipped it open. One photo in, her eyes widened. By the third, her mouth parted like she forgot how breathing worked. The hotel sign. Her car parked out front. Her walking in next to some guy in a leather jacket with a hand on her lower back like he'd paid rent to be there. She didn't speak. Not at first. "This isn't. Caleb, this isn't what it looks like," she whispered. I actually laughed. It was short. Flat. Dead. "You seriously think that still works?" She looked up at me then, and for the first time in years, she looked scared. Not because I was angry. I wasn't. That's what scared her. The fact that I was done. I'd never yelled. Never broken dishes. Never kicked a door. But I'd signed every paper that mattered. "This isn't you," she said, desperate now, stepping toward me like distance might undo facts. "You don't do stuff like this. You don't just blindside me like this." "Blindside?" I asked. "You disappeared into lies for months. You looked me in the eye and told me you loved me, then went and spent our money on hotel beds and bar tabs with someone whose name you won't even admit." "I didn't blindside you. I just finally stopped pretending I couldn't see." She dropped the folder. Photos scattered across the hardwood like leaves in a storm. She covered her face and sobbed, loud and ugly, like someone caught stealing and still begging not to be judged. "I messed up, okay?" she gasped. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I was lonely. I didn't know how to tell you I wasn't happy." "Yeah?" I said. "I wasn't happy either. You know what I did about it. I kept showing up. I worked overtime to pay for this house. I carried your car loan. I paid every bill. I waited up for you every night you lied about where you were. That was me, not happy, and still faithful." She froze. I watched the tears shut off like a switch. She blinked, and the sobbing stopped mid-note. I'd seen this look before, just never pointed at me. Cold calculation. "You're going to regret this," she said. Quiet now. Flat. "When this all settles, and you're alone in some tiny apartment, you'll regret blowing up your life over a few photos and some overblown suspicion." I didn't even blink. "No," I said. "I regret letting it go on this long." Then I turned and walked away. Upstairs, the boxes were already packed. My name was on the lease for a new place. My job had my new address. The utilities were switched. She just didn't know it yet. I was done being the steady husband she used like a spare tire. She didn't break me. She freed me. She tried everything after that. I mean everything. First came the crying. Classic guilt trip. The curled up on the couch like a wounded animal routine. I don't know who I am without you, Caleb. You've always been my rock. Except rocks don't have to dig through Facebook posts at midnight to figure out if their marriage is real. Then came the bargaining. We can fix this. We can do therapy. I'll cut him off. I'll change my number. I swear I'll do anything. She stood in the kitchen one night holding her wedding ring out in her palm like that tiny circle of metal could undo months of lies. I looked at her, took a slow breath, and said, You only want to fix it because I stopped letting you drive it into the ground. That one hit. And finally, when none of that worked, came the smear campaign. I started hearing whispers. A buddy from work told me her version had already reached the office grapevine. She says you were emotionally distant. That you never talked. That you shut her out. Another guy mentioned she told someone I worked so much to avoid her. That I had intimacy issues. Right. Intimacy issues. From the man begging for dinner conversations while she was too tired. From secret hotel meetups. What really floored me was how fast people bought it. A few neighbors went cold. One even had the nerve to drop a casserole off at my door with a note. Hope you're okay. Heard you've been struggling. Like I was the one who'd collapsed the marriage. At first, I was furious. Then I realized something. She wasn't just cheating on me with that guy. She was cheating on me with another story. In her version, she was the neglected wife, and I was the emotionally unavailable husband who drove her into someone else's arms. She wanted me to be the villain so she could be the wounded heroine. So I changed the script. I called Mark, the private investigator, and asked for the digital copies. Every photo. Every time-stamped video. Every still shot of her wrapped around some other man while telling me she was off sipping wine with friends. Then I opened my laptop. No name-calling. No anger. Just the truth. Page 1, dates of her girls' trips. Page 2, hotel check-ins, timestamps, photos. Page 3, side-by-side screenshots of her texting me. Headed to bed, love you. While kissing that man in a parking lot. Then I wrote one line at the top. Here's the truth. No more, no less. And I send it. To our families. To our mutual friends. To the coworkers who'd started whispering. To her brother, who once told me I was the best thing that ever happened to her. Then I posted a redacted version online. No names. No license plates. Just facts. For the first time in months, I went to bed without a knot in my chest. I wasn't just defending myself anymore. I was reclaiming the truth. The fallout hit like a thunderclap, but not how I expected. First wave, silence. All those people who'd been reposting her vague quotes about betrayal and heartbreak. Gone. The "You deserve better, girl" comments vanished. Her dramatic "Some people don't know how to love you" post stopped cold. Like they'd been yanked mid-script when the audience realized the play was a lie. Second wave, apologies. Texts started trickling in. My buddy Mike. Man, I'm sorry. I didn't know. You never said? My sister. We knew something was off. We just didn't want to believe it. Even her brother, the guy who once asked me to give her another chance, wrote, You didn't deserve that. Thank you for sending the truth. We're ashamed. Strangers messaged me. Dudes going through their own hell. Thanks for posting that. I'm not crazy. I knew something was wrong with my wife too. One guy even said he'd been thinking about hiring a PI for months but thought it made him weak. He messaged again a week later. I did it. You were right. She was cheating. Turns out honesty isn't loud, but it echoes. Vanessa? She lost it. She called me, screaming. How dare you humiliate me like that? That was private. You twisted everything. You'll hear from my lawyer. I let her rant. When she ran out of air, I said one sentence. Truth is an absolute defense. Then I hung up. No yelling. No explanation. Just a full stop. And just like that, the noise finally started to die down. I moved forward. The house sold fast. Young couple. Pregnant. They toured the place together, pointing at the smallest bedroom like it was already a nursery. He put his hand on her back the way I used to with Vanessa, before it became just another empty gesture. I signed the paperwork without hesitation. There was money left after the mortgage. Half of it, legally, went to her. She'd helped with the down payment years ago. On paper, she was owed that cut. People asked me if that felt like losing again. If I wanted to fight for every cent. And sure, a part of me wanted to scream. She doesn't deserve it. But a bigger part? It just wanted to be done. I told Ally, my attorney, let it go. Because I didn't want to win with hate. I wanted to leave with peace. Turns out, that was the real power move. The final hearing was nothing like I imagined. No courtroom drama. No slammed fists. No teary-eyed monologues begging the judge to see who'd really been wrong. Just me in a collared shirt I hadn't worn since my last cousin's wedding, sitting beside Ally. Vanessa was across the room with her lawyer, looking like she hadn't slept in weeks. Not broken though, no. Just calculated. Like she was still hoping to sell one last version of herself before the gavel came down. Ally went first. She laid everything out with clinical precision. The trips, the surveillance, the money trail, the lies. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The evidence spoke loud enough. You could practically feel the courtroom lean in. Then Vanessa's attorney stood and delivered his best impression of a Lifetime movie monologue. Long marriage, deep emotional wounds, lifestyle disruption. He argued she deserved alimony. That the court should consider her standard of living and my greater income. That was the line. My greater income. Like overtime shifts and pulled muscles were just currency for her next betrayal. Judge Ramirez, God bless that woman, just flipped through the file, unimpressed. Request for alimony is denied, she said without looking up. Given the documentation of infidelity and the financial contributions by Mr. Hargrove, spousal support is not appropriate. Vanessa didn't blink. But her lips pressed tight like someone sucking on a lemon. Her lawyer started to speak again, but the judge cut him off. As for the vehicle, she continued, flipping another page, Mrs. Miller will reimburse Mr. Hargrove for half of the loan payments made over the last 3 years. The court finds that a fair split, considering the usage and financial responsibility. I didn't smile. Didn't smirk. But inside? Relief. Not revenge. Not even justice. Just that rare, quiet feeling when the universe doesn't screw you for once. When it was over, I stood up, shook Ally's hand, and walked out of that courthouse without a backward glance. Outside, the air felt different. Like something had shifted in my chest. Lighter. Sharper. Real. I didn't go out and celebrate. I didn't cry. I just drove to the lake, sat on the hood of my truck, and watched the water go still under the fading sky. And for the first time in months, I didn't picture her face. I pictured my own. My life got smaller after the divorce, but in all the right ways. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment with beige walls, a fridge that hummed like an old man snoring, and carpet so thin you could feel the concrete underneath. But it was mine. No ghost smells of someone else's perfume. No fake apologies dripping off the bathroom mirror. Just peace. Quiet, boring peace. I bought a used couch off Facebook Marketplace. It was lumpy, slightly stained, and it didn't match the rug, but every time I sat on it, I wasn't being lied to. That was enough. I stopped checking my phone like a lifeline. I started going to the gym again, not because I was chasing some revenge body, but because it felt good to sweat for myself. To pick up something heavy, put it down, and realize, damn, I'm still here. My back stopped aching. My appetite came back. My Spotify got weirder, in a good way. I started listening to music I actually liked again, not just whatever made her happy in the car. Mike, my buddy from work, invited me out for beers one Friday. I almost said no out of habit. Then I remembered, I don't have anyone waiting at home to guilt-trip me over having a life. So I went. We talked about dumb stuff. Traffic. The Browns. Whether hot dogs count as sandwiches. At one point, he looked at me and said, "You seem lighter, man." I didn't realize how true that was until later that night when I took the long way home just because I could. Windows down, radio up, stars bleeding into the windshield. There's a quiet kind of healing that happens when nobody's watching. When you finally stop performing for someone who never clapped. I wasn't single. I wasn't divorced. I wasn't any of those checkbox labels. I was just me. And it felt like the first time in years I could say that without lying. I stopped talking about her. Not out of bitterness. Out of boredom. She was no longer the main character in my life. I was. And once you stop needing someone to answer for your pain, you realize they were never the answer anyway. About a year after the final hearing, I came home from work and grabbed the mail like I always did. Junk flyers, some bills, and one plain white envelope with no return address. But I knew the handwriting before I even opened it. Vanessa. I stood in the parking lot next to my truck, engine still ticking from the drive. The envelope felt heavier than it should. Like maybe she'd sealed it with regret, and prayed it could reach me before the silence grew permanent. I sat in the driver's seat, shut the door, and opened it. It wasn't one page. It was 10. Front and back. Every inch filled with her handwriting. The same curly loops she used to write grocery lists and birthday cards back when I thought love meant stability. It started with, "I'm sorry." Then, "I didn't know what I was doing." Then the real heart of it. "I still love you. I miss our life." I didn't realize how good I had it. She wrote about the guy, the one from the hotel. Said it wasn't love, that it burned fast and left her emptier than before. Said he stopped answering her calls not long after the photos went public. Said she'd been in a fog. And that now, she finally saw clearly. She wanted to talk. Just one conversation. Just for closure. Said she wasn't asking for a second chance, just a clean ending. I read every word. Not because I needed her back. Because I needed to watch her try and clean the mess with tears and metaphors. When I was done, I sat with the pages in my lap for a long time. No rage. No pain. Just this dull ache in the center of my chest, like someone finally pulled the thorn, but the wound was still fresh. Then I tore the letter into pieces. Small ones? So small they couldn't be taped back together by memory. I got out, walked over to the dumpster by my building, and dropped every last piece inside. The wind could have the sorry. She didn't get to have my piece. Later that night, I sat on my lumpy couch, feet on the table, cheap beer in hand, watching a game I didn't care about. And I realized something that hit deeper than any line she wrote. She wanted closure. But I already had it. A year ago, I watched my wife come home from a girls' trip and lose her mind over a for sale sign in our yard. She thought she was walking back into a life where she still held the cards. Thought she could cry her way back into control, rewrite the narrative, make me the villain in her self-authored tragedy. But that sign wasn't a betrayal. It was the truth, made visible. It was the first honest thing that had stood in front of our house in a very long time. And now? That life is gone. The house is sold. The papers are signed. The ring is buried in a drawer I haven't opened in months. That chapter ended. No twist ending. No what if. No secret hope. Just done. People ask me sometimes, especially people who've been through something similar, how I moved on. What changed? How I got from there to here without completely losing myself. And I'll be honest with you, I did lose myself. For a while. In the weeks after I found out, I was a ghost with a job. Went to work, came home, stared at the ceiling like it had answers. But slowly, painfully, I built something new. It didn't come from some grand revelation. No road trip to find myself. No spiritual retreat. It came from tiny, boring, consistent choices. I woke up and made my own damn coffee. I started cooking again, not just microwaving sadness. I started doing laundry before it turned into a mountain of regret in the corner. I went for long walks just to hear my own thoughts without someone else's lies echoing between them. I called my mom more. Started texting my sister back. I unfollowed her friends on social media. Not out of spite, just because I didn't want reminders of a life that wasn't mine anymore. I stopped checking to see if she posted something vague and guilt-soaked. I didn't care if she was dating. I didn't care if she was alone. Her journey wasn't mine to track anymore. One night I found myself in a bookstore, of all places. I hadn't read for pleasure in years. Used to say I didn't have time, but that was a lie. I just didn't have peace. I picked up a book on a whim and ended up reading half of it in one sitting. I walked out with 3 more. It was the first night in months I didn't think about her. Some nights, yeah, I still think about the old life. Not her. Just the rhythm of it. Coming home to a house with lights already on. The smell of dinner in the air. That dumb habit she had of singing off-key to old R&B songs while cleaning the counters. The quiet way she'd fall asleep with her hand resting on my chest like it was her anchor. That part of it was real. I think that's what people don't talk about enough. When someone betrays you, it doesn't erase the real parts. It just poisons them. But here's the thing. I don't live in that poisoned house anymore. I live in a small place with weird yellow walls and a neighbor who plays saxophone too loud on Sundays. I have exactly 2 houseplants. One's thriving, the other's definitely not. I've got 3 reliable work shirts, 1 busted coffee maker, and a balcony that overlooks a parking lot. It's not much. But it's mine. I've learned to love my own company again. That was the hardest part. Learning how to sit with yourself without the noise of someone else's needs, moods, or expectations. I learned that silence isn't loneliness, it's a mirror. And it reflects whatever truth you've been trying to dodge. Mine was this. I spent years trying to earn love from someone who saw me as a safety net, not a partner. Someone who wanted stability, but not intimacy. Loyalty, but not accountability. They loved the life I provided, not the man who built it. And that realization didn't crush me. It freed me. Now I wake up and don't wonder where she is. I don't count the hours since her last "I love you" text and question the sincerity. I don't second-guess my gut. I trust it. It was the only part of me that never lied. I've stopped chasing closure. I've stopped trying to figure out if she regrets it, if she ever really loved me, if the hotel guy was a one-off or part of a longer list. None of it matters. Because I'm not a backup plan. I'm not a temporary solution to someone else's dissatisfaction. And I'm not the man you keep on a leash just in case your thrill ride goes off the rails. I'm not angry anymore. I thought I would be for years. But anger is loud, and eventually, you get tired of the noise. Peace is quieter. Peace doesn't need to prove anything. I don't tell people the story unless they ask. And when they do, I don't go into the details. I don't list the photos or the hotel names or the exact way she lied when she came home with wine breath and a smile. I just say, it ended the way it needed to. And then I tell them the part that matters. But I didn't. I didn't end. I rebuilt. So if you're reading this and you're in that place, that lonely, limbo place where you know something's broken but you're terrified to call it what it is, let me say this clearly. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to start over. You are allowed to demand honesty. You are allowed to stop funding your own heartbreak. You are allowed to choose peace over chaos, truth over comfort, self-respect over pretending. You're not crazy. You're not weak. And you're not alone. That for sale sign in my front yard? It wasn't the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of my life. And I haven't looked back since. Last weekend, I went to a flea market just outside of town. Nothing fancy, folding tables, old tools, mismatched silverware, a guy selling birdhouses shaped like tiny churches. I wasn't there for anything specific. Just needed to be around people, the kind who barter over $3 trinkets like the economy hangs in the balance. That's where I met her. Not her, like some dramatic twist. Just her. A woman at a booth flipping through second-hand books. She picked up a weathered copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, smiled at the faded cover, and muttered, "This one got me through sophomore year." I laughed and said, "Mine was The Outsiders. Taught me everything I needed to know about loyalty, and bad haircuts." She laughed. A real one. Not the tight kind people give out of politeness. We ended up standing there talking for 15 minutes. Nothing earth-shattering. Just books, weather, and how the coffee at the stand tasted like regret. Before I left, she said, "You seem like you've seen some stuff. But you don't carry it like a weapon." That stuck with me. Because she was right. I've seen some stuff. I've held betrayal in my hands and packed my life into boxes. I've cried in my truck in the dark where no one could hear. I've looked at a woman I once adored and seen a stranger. I've stared at a mirror wondering if I was the fool or the foundation. And through all of that, I never stopped being me. I gave her my number. I didn't expect anything. But she texted later that night. Still thinking about bad coffee and good books. We've grabbed lunch since. Walks too. It's early. It's simple. It's quiet. No flinching when the phone rings. No lies disguised as kindness. No trying to convince each other that we're okay, we just are. Will it last? Who knows? That's not the point. The point is, I'm here. Not broken. Not bitter. Just whole. And ready. And if you've made it this far in my story, maybe you are too.